Okay, we had our customary phone drop, so we're going to get G. Edward Griffin back on. In fact, let's just have Genesis do it. Give Genesis his phone number, and we'll just go with the Genesis phone system and test that out that way. Again, G. Edward Griffin is our guest today. And while we're getting G. Edward Griffin back on the line, again, I'll just point out that he is in the film Fall of the Republic. Fall of the Republic, America's Last Stand, Make the Choice, Liberty or Tyranny. Fall of the Republic documents how an offshore corporate cartel is bankrupting the U.S. economy by design. Leaders are now declaring that world government has arrived and that the dollar will be replaced with a new global currency. President Obama has brazenly violated Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution by seating himself at the head of the United Nations Security Council, thus becoming the first U.S. president to chair the world body. A scientific dictatorship is in its final stages of completion, and laws protecting basic human rights are now being abolished worldwide. An iron curtain of high-tech tyranny is now descending over the planet. A worldwide regime controlled by an unelected corporate elite is implementing a planetary carbon tax system that will dominate all human activity and establish a system of neo-feudal slavery. The image makers have carefully packaged Obama as the world's savior. He is the Trojan horse manufactured to pacify the people just long enough for the globalists to complete their master plan. The film reveals the architecture of the New World Order and what the power elite have in store for humanity. More importantly, it communicates how we, the people, can retake our government, turn the criminal tide, and bring the tyrants to justice. Fall of the Republic, available on DVD at Infowars.com. Okay, going back to G. Edward Griffin, our line drop to you. Continue where you left off, sir.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I was talking to a dead phone. But anyway, it was probably the universe speaking to me, because I realized I was digressing from your initial question, which is, why do these people always gravitate toward government? And the word that was used was the super rich, or the very rich. Well, actually, in the beginning of this country, America surpassed the rest of the world through a very simple principle. It's called free enterprise competition. And under those conditions, people compete. They produce the best product and service they possibly can at the lowest possible price. And this leads to great systems of efficiency and productivity. And that, in my view, is what made America so great, because we came from a virtual wilderness. Europe was already far ahead of us, but we bypassed Europe because of free enterprise competition. Well, then toward the end of the 1800s, these very wealthy people who had become the captains of industry, as they like to call them, the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and so forth, had already reached great acquired great fortunes, and decided that competition was no longer in their best interest. And they began to look for ways to eliminate competition. In fact, John D. Rockefeller said it best. He's quoted by all of his biographers. He said, "Competition is a sin." Well, of course it's a sin if you're at the top of the pyramid and you don't want anybody competing with you because you're already in first place. Then you say competition is a sin. And from that period of history, about the 1880s on, there was a rather substantial and rapid change in the way Americans did business. Instead of free enterprise competition, they began to coalesce into cartels and form monopolies, and to go into partnership with government to pass laws, always in the name of protecting the people, but laws which in reality eliminated competition and was able to throw competitive advantage in the direction of those with political influence. And so we saw a change in the way people became rich. It used to be they became rich by competing and by producing goods and services. And then by the 1900s, they became rich by not competing and instead using their prowess and their expertise to buy politicians, to create laws that would eliminate their competition and give them unfair advantage. And so that's how we see the big bankers publicly funding fascism and communism, now declassified that Hitler and Mussolini were MI5 and were basically set up. I mean, this is the sophistication of the Milner Group and this British model, this imperial model of hiding
your true government behind front men. And so elites can come in and have the government give them the power to issue currency and credit and buy up the planet. But still, some people don't want to sell. So now you pass big environmental laws, which the Rockefellers admit they founded, which they also founded the worldwide acceptance of eugenics. Over 100 years ago, as you know, the rock stars were scientists. And these elites were smart. They financed most of the scientists. And they said, come up with systems of social control to divide and conquer people, to dumb them down, to take over government, to centralize control, to take over education, to render the public weak and impotent against us. As Bertrand Russell said, through social engineering that the elite finance, in his own words, a rebellion by the lower classes, or the proles, as he called us, using communist terminology, though he worked for the big money banks and was MI6 himself and OSS before that, Nobel Prize winner. He said a rebellion by the proles will be as unthinkable as a rebellion of sheep against the practice of eating mutton, or sheep is what mutton means for those that don't know. So they're saying we're blind, dumb sheep, that sheep don't rebel against their owner when they're getting slaughtered, do they, G. Edward?
Well, no, and cattle don't, and a lot of all those domesticated animals don't, and now we're back to Norman Dodd, because what he discovered when he was talking with the heads of these tax-exempt foundations is that they were laying a master plan which had as its goal how to make the population of America docile like cattle and sheep, and how to get them to accept all of these things without complaining. And the strategy they came up with was absolutely brilliant.
Stay there. We're going to talk about that strategy on the other side, then bring it forward to current times and then the future with G. Edward Griffin. I'm Alex Jones. This is the GCN Radio Network.